The first movement of a four-part movement of worship, the gathering piece, is at its very basis just that. It is as the people of God come together in a particular space, at a particular time, around a particular event. Now, traditionally, of course, that gathering happens on Sunday morning. That's increasingly a challenge in the world that we live in, but that's still the day that's set apart. That's still the day that the church has said, this is the day that we remember that Jesus Christ was raised from the dead. That's why we go on the Sunday. And so we gather. We come into a building that's set apart for that day. We greet friends, we hang up our coats, we get the kids settled in the nursery or tucked into the pews next to us with the Cheerios and the coloring books. And then the church gathers. We use prayer, we use music, we use an invocation, that is calling on the name of the Lord. We use silence sometimes. There may be, depending on the tradition, that is the way that your church, the way that your congregation does worship, there may be music, either meditative, sort of traditionally on an organ, some classical stuff. It may be, if you're at a congregation that is doing more contemporary, more praise stuff, it may be some rocking out praise music to get folks excited, to get folks centered, to use that word, to get folks, to help them get their minds wrapped around that today, this morning, this time, this place, this people gathered, that we're about an important task of remembering and praising and giving thanks and all the other things. But is it a chance for us to find and to reclaim our identity as the children of God, as the body of Christ in a particular place? And there are things traditionally that we've, as I said, that we've used to do that. The invocation, the prayer. Increasingly, as I go around parishes, I'm seeing congregations do a thing called a remembrance of baptism, where the leader will gather at the font, that is where the water is kept for baptism, and speak the words that were spoken when we were baptized, and sometimes even proceed from the back to the front or from the front to the back and sprinkle water on people to help them remember, oh yes, this happened to me. This marked me, this made me as a child of God and set me apart. So they may do that. Sometimes the gathering begins with confession and forgiveness. That is, as a congregation, as a people gathered, we remember, not in a morbid and depressing sort of way, but we give ourselves a chance to say, I messed up this week. Now, that's part of our human nature, we believe. The great gift is that every week we get to try again. In fact, every day we get to try again. But to confess before God and before each other, these are the ways that we've messed up, the sins that we have done, and the things that we have done and the things that we have left undone is sometimes a formula that we use. And so we own up to that. We say, here it is, and we put it out there. And in prayer and in the seriousness of that, out of that, we hear someone speaking a word of forgiveness. God knows what we've done. That isn't, God isn't going, oh, I had no idea. That isn't the way God works. But it is formative for us to be able to say, here are the things that I'm aware of, and there are things that I'm unaware of. Here are the ways that my life has been broken this week. Please, God, forgive me. And because we trust in God's graciousness and God's love, the pastor, the leader, speaks a word of forgiveness in God's name. Now, those words come out of human lips, but the forgiveness is divine. The forgiveness is God's forgiveness. I forgive you. I love you. Let's move on. It's certainly possible to worship God and to be devoted and passionate and prayerful and all of those things in a solitary sort of state. One of the great things about our faith tradition, and it is not by any means exclusive to being Lutheran, but one of the things is that we gather as the body. Jesus says, where two or three are gathered, there I am in the midst of them. Not that Jesus isn't present when we are praying ourselves, but it absolutely is a chance for the body to come together, to be reconnected, to be remembered even as we come together and greet and live in community and find out what has this week been for you like? Where have you seen God in your life this week? Where have you seen God active in your workplace, in your school, in your home, in the world? So absolutely, it is meant to be a coming together. It is a communal, co-ed, intergenerational event at its very best.